Hi there, and thank you for joining me. My name is Matthew Vaughn, and I'm the creator of Quest to Bridge the Elements. So, this was a design idea that I kind of formed as I was creating it. So, I had an idea to create a door with a bridge to three realms. So, this was originally going to be the doorway from Earth to get to these other realms. But then, as I started building it, I got inspiration from Avatar: The Last Airbender. That is a TV show on Nickelodeon. It's a cartoon TV show that I grew up watching and I love very much. It talks about the four elements and how they can go into or can come into our lives physically, mentally, and spiritually. So it's a very cool cartoon. I'd recommend it to anybody. Anyway, so this is meant to be more of a tree of life and almost a little bit of inspiration from Thor and all those movies as well, the Tree of Life, so to speak, and the gateway between worlds and the Rainbow Bridge. I tried doing a Rainbow Bridge. It didn't really look so good on here. You couldn't really tell what it was, but it looked pretty. So I stuck with the fire as more of a sacred thing that allows the fire and the crystals and the metal, I guess the gold, kind of all allow another doorway to open. Um, I was originally going to go for more of a fountain, but I couldn't really find anything like that, and the crystal looked a little bit repetitive, so I chose fire, as it is, life and death, I guess, represents both those things. Um, so I started building up. I started with just, uh, you can see under here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, just these guys, these little 3x3 pieces, or are they 4x4? Sorry, 4x4 pieces. Um, yeah, and then I started building these columns here, and then I had to leave room for these tree-looking things, these little green branch-looking things that I kind of just played off each other. There's a smaller one right here, another tiny one. I started building windows to give it a little bit more life, which I thought looked really nice. Then built it all the way to the top and tried to give it a few different layers so it branched out. And then I wasn't sure exactly what to do up here. Like I had some guardrails and some different things, and I was struggling with what might act as a door. But instead, I kind of just created these window-looking things and cool door. This sort of, made it a little bit different right here. These two pieces kind of made it look like the front door. Unfortunately, you cannot go in and out of it. It's not really accessible like that, but I mean, if you wanted to, you could pretend to climb from branch to branch or teleport, however you want to use your imagination. Um, so the first world, after getting to the top of this and figuring out how to make this structure, which was very difficult, by the way, this was the first piece, and I wasn't really sure if it was going to work out, but it did, so I kept going. Um, but yeah, finding all the pieces to match everything to make it look realistic is very hard in this program. I'm glad I learned the shortcuts. Thank you for putting that out there. That the videos helped as well. But so the second world, or the first world I created was Earth, and it started off with just these green blocks. And then actually I took these leaves that I have up here and put them on the ground. Um, if I zoom in, you can kind of tell that they're right down here, right below everything, and that's what these little plant creatures are hooked into. So that way it just gives it more layers and more depth. And I try to add different colors, the dark green, the really light greens, just to give it, like contrast and make it more interesting. So it's the same over here. So once I had that going, I started building this temple, which is basically just bricks. These you can't really see them, I guess, if I zoom in, but they're the 4x2 bricks, and they're basically just stacked around each other. So I went up 2 layers, and then I went in one. So it's, it connects to one of them. Like if I move this guy out here, you can see that that's all that piece really is. And then so it connects Oh, let me get that back in there. Goodness gracious. Yeah, I normally use the shortcut commands just because they're a bit easier for me, but you know, to each their own. Just it gave me a little bit more control, I guess. You could say. I'm not having a very good time with it right now because it's been a minute since I've used this. Hold on 1 second. There we go. And in. Perfect. Alright, so basically that's what I did. So 2 bricks high to give it the, you know, the block look, and then again moved each brick in so I could start bringing it back and making the steps. Then just added these different color little sort of, I don't even know what you call them, but they're fun. They just give it a little, I guess without them it just looks a little bit bare. So give it a little bit of texture, I guess you could say. And then I started building this up. I added snakes to guard the crystal, found this cool looking thing, put the crystal on top. Use these same things that I used for my tree down below. Those are pretty consistent in here. And then the same archway that I used for my tree over here, just a little bit longer. These guys, and then this little stone tooth looking thing. I did the blocks different colors to make it look kind of aged and again give it more contrast and more depth. You'll see that be pretty consistent too, except for the water world. Then I added these palm trees as well, which was kind of interesting because it was difficult to figure out how to build and stack these guys on top of each other. But if you stack them right, you can layer them pretty nicely instead of just stacking them on top of each other. They have 2 little circles up here that you can stack them, so you can layer them nicely and fan them out. So that's basically it for that world, and then I moved on to the water world, and I thought it would be good to use a different blue than for the crystal. Same thing for these crystals, I try to keep it somewhat consistent in that realm. The only one I had a hard time with was the red. It kind of blended in. I didn't have any other really good options to make it stand out without getting a red that I didn't like. So in these, I thought it would be nice to use the transparent blocks, but I kept it the same consistency. I'm not sure how big this block is at the moment. I could count it out, but that would take a while in the video. But I just kept it consistent with 3 of these, just to make it the same same areas of space to work in. So yeah, symmetry and all that good stuff. Anyway, so started off with these rocks because I knew I wanted a waterfall in here. Added a little island so I could figure out where I wanted the waterfall, and had to make enough distance to where the person might have to journey from the shark right here. So again, keeping things consistent, I have a monkey right here and 2 snakes guarding the crystal. I got a shark and 2 crabs guarding the crystal over here. So that's meant to be a little island, kind of like a little lagoon area. That's why these rocks are shaped in this way. And then the hardest part was the waterfall, I do believe, because I had some things that I wanted to do in the very beginning and they didn't work out at all. So I started from scratch and started with these pillars, then found this weird looking arch shaped thing that would allow me to stack these guys on here to kind of give it like a rocky feel to it. And that's why I put them up here as well in the darker water. Just to show that the water's flowing over the rocks and down below. And then I basically got this shape right here, and then these little blocks down here, and then put these same little guys right here to smooth it out and still give it like a downward flow on top of each of these blocks. And then I put these little single blocks down here, same thing, with this little texture piece and downward flow, just to kind of show that that's the white water and everything. Thought it was good to make them transparent and give them a little bit of a dark and lighter blue, just to show different colors in the water. I did do a bunch of different blues and it just looked too chaotic, so I stuck with these two since this pretty much matches the color of the water and this matches the color of the crystal. Stuck with the deeper water up here, or darker water up here, because this is, you know, transparent and there's a cave back here. So I figured the water would be a little bit lighter if the sun's shining on it or something, which it looks like it's sort of tropical, but just a tiny bit from the watercolor down here in the crabs. But yeah, so that was that world. Put the crystal right here, so you have to get by these creatures. Really fun. I had a lot of fun doing this, a lot of trial and error with this one. The one that I actually thought was going to be the hardest was the one that I did next, which was air. I was going to do fire, but I was having a hard time with the volcano, and I'll explain that in a little bit. So for the air, I did have some trouble. I was trying to figure out how to make clouds, and at first I just made little layers of these guys all over the place. There was no mountains, so it was just like clouds, 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 and then an eagle on top, and then these guys sitting on the clouds. Well, you couldn't really tell what it was. It looked like a bunch of it looked like nonsense, really. I mean, you couldn't tell. There was no structure. It just looked like someone gave up halfway through the project and was just like, I'm just gonna throw this together. So I kind of took a little bit of inspiration from the stacking over here, and started building things with these shapes, and built a base that was darker with darker rocks. And then once it got above the clouds, the rocks started getting a little bit lighter. I put these on here again for snow. This rocky looking thing that I have over here is meant to be like ice caps or different things like that, you know. This is a cloud layer here and cloud layer here. We show different sizes of mountains. Again, the snow. And we have two owls guarding it. Owls represent wisdom. I just really like that, and they can be threatening a little bit, but not normally towards humans. But still, anyways, I thought they'd be nice to have there. This is a little bit more about the journey to get up to the crystal, and not so much having to fight off creatures to get to it. But yeah, climbing from little mountain to bigger mountain to big mountain to getting past the eagle. So yeah, it was really cool. I had a lot of fun doing the layers in the mountains. Again, using these guys for rockies and icicles. Yeah, using these guys for sort of a snow layer, and having him hang off a little bit right here so it looks like he's more perched instead of like actively resting there, just kind of sitting there for only a moment, if you can catch him. Anyway, so this one was a lot of fun. I thought about having the transparency blocks as well for this to show that it's sky, and then transparency blue to show their clouds. I originally had the blue for sky and the white for clouds, but it didn't contrast well with the snow and everything, and it looked a little bit more like the water world over here, so it was just too confusing. So last but not least, I have the fire world over here, which was really hard. So you see I have these blocks right here. Now if I take this off, it's basically just this round piece, this round, I'll try to pull it out for you. So it's basically just built off these pieces right here. Yeah, so then that's how I kind of built this guy, because I didn't want to make it the same temple as this, but I couldn't really figure out how to make a volcano. It just wasn't working. It was starting to become way too big to have something go up and layer up in the middle that much. So I kind of built something like a volcano, but more of just a, I don't even know what you would call it, like a fire temple, I guess. But so I made them off those big pieces I showed you earlier, and again, 2 stacks up, and then I moved it in a little bit, as you can see right here, and then 2 stacks up, and then moved it in pretty severely here, and then 2 stacks up with these square guys right here to continue making these steps. So the back was really interesting, so I put transparent blocks back here to make it look like it's fire going on behind it, and then just hook those blocks. Like if I move this, you'll see that these blocks are all colored, and that's what the fire is sticking into, except for this back one and this outside one, but for the most part that's what they're sticking into. So it looks like the fire continues to go from the bottom. And then lava too, which is pretty cool, and I had the little molten rocks around it, kind of keeping it consistent, a little bit with the water world and giving you some transparency to how they're polar opposites, but also very, connected to each other. And for this world, I was going to build a dragon, but I was conflicted about having another winged creature. Also, most of these creatures that are in here that I have are kind of, you don't have to do really a lot of building. They just have 2 parts really, or like the monkey had a few parts, but yeah, you don't really, there's not a lot of building involved. So when I was building the dragon, it looked out of place with everything else. So I just decided to use these little raptor guys, and 2 wasn't super threatening, so I put 4. And then the 2 bats up here, they kind of blend in. I had a little bit of trouble with that because I didn't, at most angles, I didn't want any black showing where these bats are, just because the bats wouldn't pop up. But yeah, these have a little bit more creatures just because the creatures are a little bit smaller. Yeah, and then last but not least, I put this little explorer guy in here, made this creature, and then made this like ninja elf looking fella, slash wizard, wizard elf, whatever you want to call him. But yeah, he's the guardian of the 4 realms, and he normally goes to harvest parts of these crystals to keep these bridges open and to keep the earth in balance with the 4 elements, so neither one of them take over. And he's getting a little bit old, so he's got this explorer apprentice that he sought out to help go retrieve these while he teaches him the spells and everything to do it. Anyway, so it started off with one idea about a door leading to different worlds, and then branched on from that to where there was more of a place and time that would allow you to visit. And the fire is like the teleportation thing. So like you can, anywhere this wizard goes, whether it be on Earth or any other realm, he can make this blue fire and kind of teleport. I think I didn't mention that in the story, but in the pictures you couldn't really see the fire because I only could do 5, and there was not really a good way to get a picture like this. You can't really see the water world, so the main picture that I could get were from these angles, which blocked the fire altogether. And I tried to make these blocks transparent, but it just didn't work. So you just can't see the fire because I took the opportunity to put these camera angles and show the world by itself. Now in this one you can see this, but I deleted all this right here for the actual image that I put on there. And I can show you kind of what I did right now as far as something like this. Let's say this is, yeah, so there's the camera angle for that. Again, all this greenery is deleted. So I played around with the lighting in here, and then I went to background and I selected an image, which for this one I did this guy right here. And this is an image I got from a website that allows you, I think it's Unsplash, allows you to get free images. Anyway, so I took the space image, I color coded it in Photoshop, and then I put a blur around it to make it look like it was in the background. And yeah, I did that a few times with some different things. Like for this one, yeah, it was this one. Okay. So for this guy, I used Photoshop again and kind of painted one area like a red, and then faded it all because it was all really bright and didn't show, or was too distracting. So this is more of just white, green, blue, red. And I put a fade on that and then took down the opacity a lot so that these guys would be the main thing that stuck out. And then I put a title up here. So yeah, that's pretty much my project. I had a lot of fun doing this, and I really hope it gets submitted by Lego. I talked to a lot of people, did a lot of research and surveys, and they said that this would all be really fun for them to play with, and that these worlds could potentially be expounded on based off, their Lego set. If they had things that go along with it, they could build around that and expand these worlds. And a lot of people said it was really good to be able to teach their kids the importance of all the elements and nature and how it relates to one another, and how protecting our home where we live is just as important as protecting our house and our loved ones and everything else. So, and yeah, that's my project. I'm really excited about it. Had a lot of fun doing it. Thank you so much for this challenge. I hope you liked my video and my presentation. Yeah, I hope you got to see it from all angles. I can go and give you a little bit of an overview here. Again, I had a lot of fun doing it, bringing these things in my head, these ideas to life. What's fun is I didn't start off with this idea at all, and as I was making it, my idea kind of just formed and turned into this, something I am very proud to produce and share with other people and to market on social media. And yeah, I really hope, really hope it gets put into production. It would be amazing. I love Lego, and it helped me a lot in my creativity as a child. So thanks again for a great project. Thank you for listening. This has been Matthew Vaughn with The Quest to Balance the Elements.